Well, good morning, guys. Piedmont Gardener. Glad to be back with you. Well, we are doing a little work on the root cellar today. Trying to continue with the project. Of course, we're documenting so we can continue with the series. And so the last time we were out here, I showed you that we had actually finished the block work. We'd put the L blocks, what I'm gonna call them. We'd put the L block on, and we had a rebar. And I've already started putting a roof panel on. This is some material that I had left over from the scavenge, and I'll flip it around here so you can take a look at it. So as you can see, I've got 2 panels cut, and I've got one more panel to cut and get in place. These snap lock together. Like I said, this is some material from a demolished freezer building that I've had for a long time, and it's going to come in handy. But I've cut it, and you can see that it's cut short of the outside of the block to fit down in that L channel. And what that does, that'll allow, see, you can tell that where I'm at right here, I've got a lot of bearing on this block. So that's good. But when I pour the concrete, all that concrete's going to go down in these holes and tie into this rebar and the rebar that's coming out of it. So we're going to lay another panel here, and I'm going to show you what I've got going on, how I'm prepping. Now, of course, these blocks, these L blocks, and I don't know exactly why, but the tolerances on them are not quite as tight as a standard cinder block. If you'll take a look, now this part right here is the mortar that I sort of got a little sloppy with, and that's fine. But if you look right here, there's a rib on top of this thing. And normally this block is used they'll put this up on the perimeter of a garage pour or a slab on grade structure, and of course tie in, the cement runs down into it, and then this would be the top of your foundation, and then your top of your wall would start right here. Now when that happens, all this a little bit of overmold here, it just gets covered up by concrete, which works fine for that application. I've repurposed these blocks, and I'm using them for a different purpose. So what I need to do is try to clean all this off. I want my panels to lay down just as smooth as I can on top of this block. The reason for that is when I go to pour this concrete, of course it's going to run, it's going to have some, it's going to be fluid, and it's going to run. If these panels ain't tight down on, if I've got big gaps and cracks all along the top of this structure, then it'll still pour. But I'll have Portland cement, the liquid part of the mortar that's not the aggregate. It'll be running down on the walls and looking all nasty. So let me get this cleaned off, and we'll get this other panel in place, and then I'll show you what we're going to do next. Make sure you got some kind of glasses. This is a diamond blade. You can use it to cut these center blocks. This is in a grinder, but it works pretty good. But you're talking about messy. Makes quick work of it, but it is messy. And I've got a fan set up here behind me to blow that dust and debris well down through the woods. If I didn't, And if you was in a confined space with this, you would certainly probably want a dust mask. But as you can see, I'm not going to call that smooth, I'm going to call it flat. I've got a flat surface for this to bear on, and that'll minimize my gap. Now we're going to take some other precautions, and I'll show you those later in the video. Stay on this side. Well, good morning, guys. All right, well, as you seen yesterday, me and Matt got the roof on this thing. Well, part of it anyway. We got our panels in place. He helped me with that. And so once we've got our panels in place, whether you're using some kind of panel like I've got, or some kind of corrugated panel, steel panel, plywood, whatever you're using, when you pour the concrete on top, if there's any gaps or cracks around the panel, between the top block of the panel, you're going to have concrete oozing through. And if you got big cracks, it's going to be pouring through. You're going to have a real problem. So our next step is to determine how we're going to seal this panel. I've been giving it some thought. Let's go inside. I know that it's going to be dark, but at least you'll have an idea of what I'm talking about. Alright, so we got our panels up here, and that turned out real nice. I like how that's going to make for a pretty good roof. As you see, now these panels, they're heavy, but they're not too awful heavy. So I think with the addition of some weight, they're going to seal down a little tighter than what they currently are. But still yet, even as tight as this panel is, you can see there's a little bit of light coming through. And that's going to let the Portland cement in the concrete, as you can see, I've already made a boo-boo right there. I don't guess that ain't going to hurt a thing, but with that being said, here where the camera will focus, we want to try to seal that up. And what I'm thinking, and I've got to be careful with this idea, but the ideal thing maybe to seal those cracks up would be some great stuff, some foam sealant, and that'll seal it up good and tight. There'll be no infiltration of the mortar out of the concrete, and keep the bugs out and everything. Of course, when that gets concrete on it, ain't gonna let no bugs coming down through the concrete. But at any rate, great stuff is what I think I'm gonna go with. But anyway, I'm gonna have to hold this camera. The way the light's coming through the trees this morning is putting some glare on it. You can see it, and I apologize for it. But at any rate, the concern I have with the great stuff If I get too much in there, then it may try to push my panels up. So what I'm going to attempt to do, and take a chance having to dig this stuff back out, but here's what I'm going to do. We're going to go in there. I'm going to lift the panel. I'm going to put just a little bit of great stuff on top. Continuous bead, but just a little bit. Just enough to seal it. And then I'm going to take some of these cinder blocks down here, and I'm going to lay them on top of the panels. And, well, let's give it a shot. We'll see how it goes. Alright guys, well I know it's dark as a dungeon in here. Camera's having a hard time focusing, but we'll do the best we can. You might be watching me make a mistake, but we're going to see. We're going to see what happens. If this don't work, then I'll have to take a wire brush on the angle grinder and dig it back out. But I think we're going to make it work. The thing is, I've got to make sure that I don't put too much. That's the big deal. If I put too much, that's where we're going to have problems. So I'm going to get it started. And what I'm going to try to do, I'm going to try to lift this panel a little. See where I need to be. There we go. And I'm going to just put just a bead across there. Not too much. If I miss some spots, I can always go back later. I can always go back later and fill in the spots once this is dried. Put me a little bit in. Like I said, I'm running it quick. I don't want it to. We'll go back and clean the excess up later. Alright, so I got it sealed. I think I got it sealed all the way around, quick fashion in a hurry. And then I went outside. Well, let's go look. Alright guys, so we got the lid on this thing. You see me put the great stuff underneath. I run around like a wild man off camera, and I put, 300 pounds probably of cinder block. I think there's 11 on there, just on the edges, try to weight everything down. So let's cross our fingers, see how that works. We hope we don't get no push, and hope everything seals up now. So I may go across these top seams, put me a little bit on these top seams where everything comes together. Those are old panels and they fit pretty tight, but they've been used before. So, but anyway, we should be able to let that set. We'll have it all sealed up and come in and start placing our rebar.